Hello and welcome to More Spark. Today I have a little bit of a propagation method here that in the world of euphorbias is rather important. If you wish to propagate euphorbias that have a reduced main stem or grow from a central growing point, this is a very important propagation video here and propagation method. For example, this is my Euphorbia Enigma. And as you notice, it comes from a central growing point, as they call these medusoid type euphorbias. As you can see, the little branches and stuff like that come directly from the center of this plant. Let's see if I can get in a little closer here. Okay, you can see those tiny little branches coming from the main center. Now with euphorbias like this, to get a normal plant, you have to do a two-step method. And any kind of plant that grows from a main stem or reduced main stem, and all the branches originate from a central growing point, you'll probably have to do a two-step cutting method on. You can propagate a branch from this, and more than likely the branch is going to get longer and longer and longer unless you do a two-step method on it. It'll just kind of grow like a bramble. This is a Euphorbia Evansii cutting that I started last season. And this is going to require that, and I'll show you why here in just a second. This is the mother plant. This is Euphorbia Evansii. As you can see, it's in the tree form. It's got that nice big trunk to it there. But this tree would not have been possible without the two-step cutting method. When I first bought this, it was a rooted cutting, and over about 3 years it grew longer and longer until it was about 2 feet long. I didn't know anything about the two-step method until I read about it in a set of books known as the Euphorbia Journals. An excellent set of books. And they had an article on this in one of the volumes. You can see here it's kind of blooming right now. Pretty nice. Anyhow, if you notice, this plant grows from a main trunk. Now it looks all barked up and everything and like it's not alive, but as things progress through the summer, the very center is green and it'll start growing out again. And all these little branches originate from that. Now it will throw out, and you can propagate these and they will make a normal tree. It'll throw out side main stems. These main stems are typically 5 to 6 angled. And all those branches originate, as you can see, from a whorl from around that main stem. Now, you can probably propagate one of these main stems here and get a normal tree. But these little side stems, you're not going to get the normal plant, and it's not going to make a tree. All it's going to do is be a long branch, and this is all you're going to get, is a long branch. Such is the case with this. This is a branch, and as you can see, it's just growing longer and longer. And I'm going to show you what to do about that in just a second. Now here's another euphorbia that grows from a reduced main stem. Much like my Euphorbia Enigma I showed you. You can see the small branches growing from the center there. This is another one that you'll have to do by the two-step. Euphorbia granny waldii cannot be propagated without the two-step method. If you do propagate a branch and get at the root, it'll just grow longer and longer. It won't most likely form that caudex you see underneath from where everything grows. So you have to do a two-step method on it. Now, here we have our cutting. Now, if you look here, you'll see I've got one here already. See if I can get this any closer. I've got one right here that has these 2 little branches coming off of it. This is one I cut last season. And these 2 little branches are what's actually going to make the big trunk, like you saw my big Evansii mother over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on this one how to cut this off, how to treat it. And theoretically, these little branches that are around here, these little satellite branches here, will take over. And they will actually grow into the main trunks. And this should have like 5 trunks on it if they all survive, if all these little branches survive and take over. Now sometimes you can get dominant branches and they will actually take over the plant and others will die off. But I'm hoping that what will happen is that these will actually take over and I'll get a tree with 5 trunks on it. And like this one here, this is going to have 2 trunks on it. My original tree that I showed you had 2 trunks, but later in life, much later, one side died for reasons I don't know, and I had to cut it away. But the other side survived well and is growing, as you see, very well and blooming. Okay. So I'm going to do this. Set that there. Now you want to clean off your clippers. I've got some 70% alcohol here. Get those wiped off. The thing about euphorbias is you kind of want to have a clean environment when you're cutting them, because of the simple fact that euphorbias, if they get infections or rot, it's different than cacti, and the fact that they have a larger vascular system for all that sap to go through, and infections travel fast in that vascular system, so you probably want to clean up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, just right above these branches here, if I can get myself in there. I've just sharpened these clippers, they're very sharp, and cut that off. Now you see that? That is euphorbia sap, and it is toxic. You don't want to get that in your eyes or anything like that, because it'll burn like crazy, and yes, it can blind you. I'm not sure of how toxic Euphorbia Evansii is. These things vary, but I don't think I really want to find out. Okay, I'm going to set this cutting aside here. I'm going to take and spray off this cutting. And you see there's a lot of latex there. You kind of want to wash that off. Just wash it off real good. Keep that cut clean. It may ooze a little bit more, but not much more. And what will happen is this will turn into a tree like the regular tree, and it'll quit growing longer and longer and longer. One of the other euphorbias I'm going to show you right now is my Euphorbia Zigzag. I got a question from one of my viewers, and I wasn't able to answer her back. And my phone, for some reason, wouldn't let me answer her back. Wipe up this latex. Wouldn't let me answer her back, and so I'm going to try to answer a question here. Euphorbia Zigzag is one of those from a reduced main stem. If you look down into this zigzag here, you'll see down in there that there are reduced stems where these are growing from, and this one produces like multiple heads down in there. The thing about this, I've seen these before, they propagate these from branches, and they just grow like a tall branch, like a tall branching euphorbia. They don't do this form like this, where it has this kind of rounded whorl that it grows in. So what you're going to have to do probably is a 2-step method on it. Now, I've never tried this on this particular plant, but being that it grows from a reduced stem, I would say that you could start one of these branches, and once it gets good and growing, cut it till it's about maybe an inch or so, 2 inches above the soil, and try that 2-step method. Just treat it as a normal plant. It should start growing out branches, and they may turn into those little reduced branches. I'm not really sure on this. Grandicornis, which is one of the parents of the zigzag, and pseudocactus both. I've not really read anything about whether you could do the 2-step on it. Most of them say just start from seed, and you'll get this plant. It is kind of strange that a lot of euphorbias won't normally propagate from branches, and you have to do this. But this is important in a lot of these reduced stem euphorbias. So anyhow, I just wanted to show you this because this is very important. Euphorbias like Euphorbia torturama, the Evansii here, Clavigera, squarosa, a lot of these reduced plants like that that grow from that central growing point. And those are most of the small ones I'm telling you about that look like Groeni waldii or stellata or my Enigma. Have to have that 2-step method done on them. And a lot of these tree euphorbias from the Transvaal that are much like Evansii and grow from this point, and there's a whole number of them, will need to be done in that manner. 2-step cutting method, folks. Now I'll give you an update later on these Evansiis and show you just how they're doing as they grow. But this should now turn into a normal tree, and the top portion you can let it dry, let the cutting dry, And you can actually restart it and do the same process again, and you can get several of these from one cutting. Anyhow, I just wanted to show you this two-step cutting method. It's, as I say, important for these reduced stem succulents. The only ones I can think of that don't require it are these the Caput Medusae group. Because what happens with them, they do grow from a reduced stem, as you see up here. But this is a plant that produces satellite heads. And you see this end of this branch is growing little branches out all over it. Eventually what can happen is these spread out across the ground in nature and actually make new heads and new plants. So the two-step method isn't really required on this type of main stem growing euphorbia. Mainly on these other ones that I've told you about. The Caput Medusae group just isn't one of them. But other medusoid euphorbias, such as my Enigma here, and this Euphorbia stellata, same thing. Granny Waldii, brevitorta. Now, the interesting thing on brevitorta, though, is it produces actually side main stems on this one. And you could probably propagate one of those too. But I'd say two-step cutting method for these branches like this is the way to go. Anyhow, this is Clyde Morris from Morris Park. I hope this video is informative, and I hope it's useful to you when you're propagating your euphorbias. You all have a good day. Take care. Clyde Morris from Morris Park. Goodbye.